just like Eric. It's actually more comfortable to hold it like this.
I got the belly. You just kind of sit it right on there, and it's like a supper plate.
Punch it out.
I'm just confident that these shoot high enough that that's not in the. Good. Got my back.
Yeah. So Josh, we got our ghosts. You got your Charmin. I think we're good to go. We're in.
Turn my phone volume up here. All right, we're good. Okay, with the Bean Tile King.
Jeez.
I'd say I'm trying to figure out what story to start, and then we just start the podcast. Kind of like Joe Rogan, he starts, like they get into a really good conversation, and like boom, then it starts. That's the vibe I'm feeling. Anyway, so I want to talk. I want to talk about nutrient stratification, just from a student aspect. Like, man, this is just so foreign to me, this concept, and I think a lot of farmers are going to be like, what are you talking about? You know, and then what are you saying? The plow concept, that was fascinating. And then tile, how has tile helped you in your business? And then I don't know where we go.
Yeah, I'm ready for wherever it goes.
Yeah, I am so comfortable right now.
Yep.
And my allergies have actually calmed down a little bit, and my gut is actually feeling happy again. So I'm good.
Game on.
I'm game on, man. Hope you guys got a lot of memory cards. Kirk shaking his head no. All right. Anyway, all right. So we're in South Dakota. We're in an undisclosed location at Eric's place. Undisclosed location.
GPS coordinates are
this
down
and
below.
That.
Yeah. Look at the comments.
right. Anyway, so we came up here because I would say uncommon farming practices leading to uncommon crop results.
And attention to detail.
That was one of the things that you hit on most last night when we were talking. We were eating buffalo sauce chicken, ditch chicken.
Pheasant.
Buffalo sauce ditch chicken nuggets with sweet corn.
Amazing.
Oh my gosh, that was incredible. So that was inspiring in itself. Just the buffalo sauce ditch chickens. Anyway, Eric, thank you.
Yeah, glad you guys could come up.
Yeah, me too. Stratification.
So, Eric, maybe fill us in about stratification. Has been in the industry, or has been talked about for the last couple of years. You know, definitely prolonged practices of no-till. That was a very common theme of test every 2 inches, see where stratification goes. I think what's very interesting is you dove into that, you did the test, and share more about what you found and maybe some concepts that you have from that.
So we'd been fortunate. We had a third party doing research on our farm for probably the last 10 to 12 years. And part of his research, it was K and zinc and et cetera. But all the plots got a 12-inch soil sample divided on 2-inch increments. So we had a 0 to 2, 2 to 4, et cetera, through the whole profile. And what we saw was very high concentrations of nutrients in the top 4 inches and a decreasing level as you went down. In my past, I've seen that before, but we knew we had it here on the farm, and so we were curious: were we going to be able to get all those nutrients into our plant in a drier year? You know, deeper in the roots are going deeper to pull the moisture. Where are they getting their nutrients from?
Yeah.
And so I really thought we had a problem. You know, did we need to deep band our fertilizer? What did we need to do to get that nutrient where the moisture was so we could get it into the plant late season? Fast forward a few years, I was trying to think how we were going to approach this. We were conventional tillage at the time with a little bit of no-till, but how were we going to address it? Was it a moldboard plow and putting a plow down out and rolling that all down 10 to 12 inches, something like that? And I had a customer when I was an agronomist in Iowa that a bachelor corn on corn loved to plow. He had a 4960 and it was straight piped and just love to sit in that thing and plow 14 inches deep every year. And so his ground had been corn on corn and plowed for 35 years at least, maybe 40 plus.
Wow.
And so I called my counterpart down there and said, "Are you still working with this individual?" And he said, yeah, in good relationship with him. I said, "Could you go and ask him if it'd be all right to go out and pull some soil samples in his field in graduated increments?"
Yep.
I mean, if rolling that complete profile over every year wasn't mixing our nutrients, then I needed to find a new plan, because I knew that this would be an answer to that question. And so he went out, pulled the same type of samples, took a 12-inch core, divided the cores into 2-inch increments, and then bagged them individually and sent them off to the lab. And what we found was his soil was stratified just as severely as ours was. And so that got the wheels turning. I'm like, what's going on here? Why is his soil stratified just like ours when he's putting broadcast P&K on the surface and then plowing down every year?
Yep.
What I finally decided was that it had to do with where's the oxygen in the soil, where's the biology active at, and where are we making those nutrients plant available. And that was all in the top 4 inches. As you got deeper, we got anaerobic, and all of those solubilizing microorganisms weren't active at those deeper levels.
Yes.
So it wasn't a nutrient at depth issue, it was a biological activity issue. The lower biology, the deeper you go, which isn't shocking because we're talking about oxygen, water table, etc.
Yeah.
Third grade, can you explain stratification?
The concept that has been talked about in the industry is definitely when you think of no-till, okay, no disruption. Okay, you're doing a dry program. P and K, well, P for sure takes a very long time to move down the soil. I think it's like what they usually say is a centimeter a year. Okay, so it's very slow. So if you're applying P every year, okay, and it's only moving with just say a centimeter a year, after 5 years, what you applied 5 years ago is only went down 5 centimeters. Okay, which is in that top 4 inches, right? Mm-hmm. So the theory was, or the thought process was, we're applying all this dry fertilizer and it's not getting down to the root zone. Okay, so that top 2 inches, top 4 inches has an over concentration of P. Then you go lower, it's a very lower concentration. But when you're taking a 0 to 8 soil sample and you're not breaking it apart, your P may look fine. But 75% of your P is in that top 2 inches.
Got it.
Now, kind of piggybacking off that story, I agree. It's the biology in the top 0 to 4 inches. Also, I think about the timing of the samples. Were they both done in the fall?
Actually, they were spring on our farm, because the spring samples were done prior to the plot layout, or as they laid out the plots every spring. And I think the samples in Iowa, if I remember right, were a June or July.
Okay. Well, it throws away one of my theories, but I still get to the point of microbes, when they have oxygen, you're dealing with aerobic bacteria. Their job is to release nutrients. And it's very clear. It doesn't matter what your tillage practices are. That's what they're trying to do on those top 4 to 6 inches. I think really the question is how do we get more release deeper into the profile, But I also think we're dealing with barriers too, that Mother Nature, like this year, wet year, it's going to be a little bit easier to have that aerobic zone farther down. So with that biology, what can we be doing in season to maybe get it another half inch down or help the populations release even more nutrients in that top 0 to 4 inches?
Well, you talk about what's the first one to dry out, 0 to 4.
Yep.
And so we talk about water, but as we chase water, we're losing biological activity, reducing our nutrient availability.
Well, and I even talked when we did Lance Gunderson's podcast.
Yeah.
If your plant's showing stress, water stress, you know that biology is in water stress.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Mother Nature has to be on your side too. I felt like I've oversaid this quote the last three weeks, but I'm going to say it again. 80% of yield is determined by weather.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's not just because, if it's good weather, good moisture, the crop does good. It's because your bugs do good in that weather as well.
Yeah.
So the system is cranking. You're getting mineralization.
One of the guys that I feel like really is probably the most like honed in on trying to move the needle. I mean, dude, he's got more tanks and hoses on his planter than anyone I know. It's crazy. But I asked him, I was like, dude, straight up, how much do you think we can affect yield with our applications? Like strictly application. He's like, he's like 20% if everything's perfect. He's like, I think that is the max you'll ever reach, ever. I was like, what do you think what do you think average realistic is? He goes, 7 to 10. He goes, average. He's like, I think you'll get 12% maybe, but All right, guys, we're dropping multiple mini-series on YouTube going over crop management, farm management, all kinds of stuff on the farm.
Yes.
Lots of information. Check it out. It's good stuff.
We'll see you there.
I agree with that 100%. And to build on that, so why are we putting all of our nutrients out prior to running the planter across the field?
Yeah, absolutely. Expound on that. Like from what you've seen to what you've changed in your operation.
Well, we all want to be a low-cost producer, and if we know that our inputs, other than seed, are only influencing yield 7 to 12%, let's say, why we don't know if we need them. At least here in South Dakota, where we're fully dependent on Mother Nature, either too much rain or not enough rain, etc. Having the ability to put those nutrients on later. Every week you gain in the season, you gain more knowledge about what the potential of that crop is.
Yep.
So being able to address it at V6, V8, V10, and then further into the reproductive stages, you've got a better idea of what your actual potential is. Every day you're gaining new knowledge about that field.
So I thought it was interesting last night you were talking about you're looking at different sprayers. Mm-hmm. With CNC spray technology, high clearance, things like that. I mean, we talk about planting, the planter, and the attention to detail at the planter. Is probably the most influenceable spot. At
foundation.
The foundation. Yeah. Everything is set at the planter, like literally the whole season. The biggest influenceable portion.
Yep.
But it's interesting because you're fine, with what you guys are doing is, okay, how much of a sprayer can I justify with being precise and knowing what the needle we can swing with a sprayer, or its capability of getting through fully tasseled corn or whatever beans, or, how much product can we conserve by spraying product on just the grow of crop and not the ground in between. Things like that. I mean, that's pretty dang intense management compared to what most guys are doing. Guys are just happy to get something sprayed.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Well,
dude, I'm one of those guys.
Yeah.
I'm just relieved when I can get everything sprayed.
Yeah. I mean, like even my neck of the woods, I know I've told you this, I don't know if I said it on the podcast, but I really think 90% of our acres are done customly. Like there's just not many people that own their own sprayers, but it's starting to change a little bit.
Sure.
But with that, you don't need a brand new sprayer to go spray your herbicide. Do what you can and how you can get across your acres with, we all know where corn's at. We all know where beans are at. Like, just take a step in the right direction, And I just go back to just the timeliness of having those assets on the farm. I mean, honestly, it's more about the timeliness, and it doesn't matter what product you're spraying. If you get the perfect day, you might be able to knock out, anywhere between a quarter to a half based on how many acres you have on the perfect day,
Right.
you're not on the list for 10 days later when maybe it was too windy. And nothing, I mean, I'm a commercial applicator. Sometimes you got to get the job done, because if you wait for the perfect timing on every acre,
You won't get it.
you won't have a business for very long.
Yeah.
You know, so there's give and take, and I respect both sides of it. But the benefit of having it on your own is on those perfect days.
Yeah.
You can do it.
I had a precision ag teacher in college, Dr. Carlson, and he was big on the precision ag, but then also knowing your numbers and doing that. And he said, guys, if you're ever building out farm spreadsheets in Excel, don't feel bad if you're overcapitalized on spray equipment and harvest equipment.
Yep.
This is still South Dakota, and Mother Nature still rules.
Yep.
And that comes back to the timeliness of both of those operations and their effect on yield.
I know what the next part 2 is going to be about. We're going to dive into business. I'm so excited.
Oh man, I was gonna have part 2, part 3.
Yeah,
I was gonna do
fair enough.
I was gonna
fair
do 100 bushel beans.
Yeah, well, we can do that too.
All right.
Just kind of going back on the stratification part, kind of making sure we wrap that up.
Yeah.
Okay, so a guy that was morbid plowing versus even no-till or maybe even conventional till, both saw stratification. Very similar, in perspective, similar concepts happening throughout the profile.
Top 2 inches, we take phosphorus for example, 40 to 75 parts per million. You get to 6 inches and below, single digits, both farms. So just see it dive off that cliff from the top 4 to the bottom 6, let's say.
Yep.
And today I still don't have a solution for it. Maybe we talked prior to the podcast here about drip irrigation.
Yep.
In sprinkler irrigation, if you put nutrients on, they move down with the water. It's moving down.
Yep.
In a drip situation, we're seeing that the root and the capillary action pull that up, and so maybe that is a way to counteract some of that is nutrients through drip irrigation or something like that.
Well, and just always remember what's in your water.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a bunch of rain-fed water in a pond, more times than not, just know if it's on a pivot coming down. I mean, I can see it today. I can pull a soil sample from one field versus another. I can tell you which one's from a well and which one's from surface water. I mean, within one number. I mean, just what's your base sat calcium? It's honestly the only number I need, and I can probably tell you what your irrigation is.
Yeah, we have very hard water around here.
Okay.
If you were to send it in, it's 300 grains.
Yep. It's hard. How bicarbs?
Yeah.
Yep. I think that's something that's need to be pursued more, definitely in the irrigation world, is managing those bicarbonates and trying to do it in the most economic way possible. Because I mean, I was on a talk yesterday, and they were showing me a plan, and it was like $600 an acre if they truly wanted to get the water where they needed it. I don't know many people signing up for $600 an acre
for a growing year.
For a growing year, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And that's not what they were saying. They're just saying if you wanted to get your water,
if you wanted to do it,
this is where it's at, right?
Yeah.
So the part that I was looking at is there certain timings? Like, I really think most of corn yield is lost R3 to beginning of R5. That's where yield just disappears. Tip back.
Yeah,
it just disappears.
We've seen it this year.
Yeah, I mean, it disappears there. So is that the time to maybe spend $100 an acre on making sure our water's right?
Yeah.
And
the most impactful times.
yeah, but the argument to that is if your foundation's wrong because you had to water a little bit in the spring and your plant's already out of whack, it ain't going to solve the problem at R3. Right. So there's balance there, and going into the year, I'm learning. We're going to keep learning more and share it on this podcast, but I just think it's something for our irrigators out there. Know what your water is at, so you at least know what you're combating. Because when you put an inch of water down, your soil becomes your water.
Yeah, absolutely.
And vice versa.
Sure.
So.
And what you just said comes full circle back to what you asked me. Why would you put all your inputs up front if you think that high percentage of your yield is made from R3 to R5? I mean, that's when we can, if we've done everything right to that point, that's where our inputs can help us gain yield, in my opinion.
Yeah, because I get to the part 2. The big thing in the industry right now is what's 97% of the plant? Carbon, oxygen, hydrogen. I'm not disagreeing with them at all.
Yeah.
Okay, but those other percentages, those micros, those NP and Ks, if that percentage ain't right, it's not able to take up that 97% very well. So, I mean, there's a balance here, and I don't want people to say, well, maybe I don't need NPK. If you're deficient, you're going to see a response. I mean, don't feel like you can just pull P out if your P levels are below, 20 ppms. Like, figure out what your yield limiting factor is on the farm to understand that if you want that 97% of that crop to be as efficient as possible, make as much starch as possible or as much pods as possible, it comes down to making sure that little percent is being efficient. I mean, even you with your foliar spray of zinc, manganese, and copper instead of a fungicide. Okay, I'm not saying that's for every acre. If you have a bad southern rust problem, get it solved with a fungicide, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But in your situation, you were able to suppress the southern rust in that field by applying those micros. And on the flip side, you go to his tissue samples. Zinc's a yield limiting factor on that field.
Yeah.
And honestly, that was the highest bricks field that I sampled yesterday, believe it or not. Now, if you did the eye test, you would say that was the lowest one. But at least tells me that plant in that situation is trying to do everything it can to produce whatever yield it is. It may not be the highest yield,
Right.
but you're getting everything you can out of that plant right now.
Yeah. And there's still 30 days to go on that corn.
Yes.
So kernel depth and all that. I think we're still going to see return from those applications.
Yeah.
And it's going to show up in kernel depth and test weight.
Yeah. So I guess my biggest thing is just those smaller percentages. Yes, they're smaller percentages, but they're just as important. So you can that plant can actually utilize its systems for the carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen.
Yeah. Well, and being able to, because you think about it, our inputs is probably the thing that we're most proud of, I would say. Like, we spend the most time pondering. I mean, as a farmer, how much time do you sit there thinking, do I run potassium acetate? Do I run melted urea? Do I run humic and furrow or in my 2x2? Do I run this foliar or that foliar? Like, we spend probably the most time. How much time do you spend thinking about that versus how deep you're going to plant your corn?
Yep.
Or, what seed hybrid? I think a little bit more about that. But I'm talking the nutrient management is probably, compare it to your post-emerge. How long do we spend thinking about our post-emerge? Probably about 2 hours.
Yep.
Talking to a couple of different guys.
Yep.
And being like, all right, I'm going to go with that one.
Yep.
And we do it. I don't want to discourage people by saying I would love to say I move the needle 40% with my full, with my fertility program in furrow foliar strip till.
Put a zero check nitrogen strip out and
then
see.
I did.
Okay.
Last year, that was one of the most humbling experiences ever. Like, and I can't remember if I talked about this on the podcast or not, but there was, I did all in strip till. I did it by like serious check strip. I did 160 units in 120, 100, whatever, and then 120 and then 0. It really tried to trick this test, not seeing it phase out. I was like, man, and then did 2 checks. And this is on tremendously good dirt. Like, okay, I'm talking. Yeah, this is south of my house.
Yeah.
And anyway, the no nitrogen made 176. The standard nitrogen process or program made 218. Extra nitrogen made like I want to say 230, maybe 240. Which, I mean, everyone's like, wow, look how much he lost from 0 nitrogen to excess nitrogen. But I'm like no, look at what that thing did. Now, we had a great year. Dude, last year was one of the best corn years we've had in a long time. So, ideal environment.
Yep.
Ideal environment, what did that do? And that was a very humbling thing, is what could this crop do without me?
Yep.
And then you get this keyboard words. Oh, you believe in raising a crop on nothing. Like, no, I didn't do that farm wide.
Right.
I did that 16 rows wide with 2 check strips, or with 2 16-row passes.
Well, that's when you can start actually figuring out your ROI curve. So when you need to push pennies, be like, is it better for me to raise 180 corn? And like in your situation, is it better for me to raise 180 corn, more profitable next year, than me trying to push for 240 and only getting 220 because of weather?
Right. Well, it was a great learning experience, and nitrogen wasn't my limiting factor.
Yep.
And then let's dial that back. Let's say you are you comfortable going in today saying I can grow 150 bushel corn without any nitrogen?
No.
Well,
I'm not comfortable yet.
Not comfortable yet.
Not comfortable. Is it dwelling in my mind more, though? Absolutely.
But if you know you have that in the bank, why would you put 240 units out pre-plant or fall anhydrous?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yep.
We need to move those applications
Back.
later in the season. Once we know, do we have the perfect stand? You know, do we have early season rains that are
Yep.
going to leach this on us?
Yep.
You know, the more days and data we can get behind that, the more intentional we can become with our nutrient applications late season.
Yep.
I mean, crop insurance is offering a discounted rate for split applied nitrogen.
Okay.
You split apply, and in certain regions.
Yep.
Certain regions, the line is almost to us, man. It's almost to us. You do split applied at nitrogen, they'll take, I want to say, $5 an acre off your premium.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're not going to incentivize something that doesn't work. You know, that they're only going to do what ensures their bottom end.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was fascinating when they told me there was a kickback for that, or a reduced premium.
I know one thing. I mean, I'm a firm believer of one strip, do zero applied in, just to figure out where your foundation is. But one thing to keep in mind too is to make that a true test is that exact same spot won't get in for 3 years. A legit test
A legit
Sure.
test, absolutely.
would be that.
Sure.
Because,
Year one, you could have a carryover.
well, yeah, and what's going on in foots 3 and 4 that you never knew.
I see. Sure. Right.
You know, that's one thing. I mean, I talk about doing that to see where your foundation is, but I also want to make sure we keep in check that if we're going to pursue where is that level, it's actually 3 years after doing the exact same thing on that section, because then you know the cup's quote unquote empty, right? Because like even like with my organic growers, they can still which under irrigation, okay, they're able to control water, and it's good water.
Yeah.
You know, they can still crank out on a good year 180, 190. Okay, now we have manure that they can utilize. There's cover crops. I mean, it's not like they're going out there zero in.
Right.
You know, they have to be more intentional about how they do it. But I don't want people to get the misconception too that if you do that for 1 year, then you go ahead and do that on a pivot,
Right.
and you don't get or a quarter, you don't get the same results.
Yeah.
You know, be intentional and prove it to yourself on a small scale. Prove it. 3 years. Prove it before you start expanding on it.
Well, and with today's equipment, if you monitor it, you can still come in and save yourself.
Yep.
You know,
Yes.
if you got backwards, it turned dry, the soil's not cycling or turning over the nitrogen. The equipment's out there either
Yep.
through the co-op or a neighbor or
Yep.
whatever
Yep.
to come back and remedy that.
Yeah. And swallow the pride and remedy it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
You know, and it goes back to walk your fields.
exactly.
Because, I mean, I'm not going to lie. When it comes to NP and K, S, I feel very comfortable that if I need to rescue it, I can rescue it. I feel very comfortable there that if a person's starting to tone back or they want to see what that crop can do, honestly, until corn gets to like V10, I don't care what it looks like. Personally.
I don't disagree.
Dude, wheat's pretty similar.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I've learned wheat's the I call them the kings of wheat. They'll tell you wheat crops made in May.
Yep.
Like, made in May. You can have amazing looking wheat. If we have a crummy May, falls on its face. You can have crummy looking wheat and a perfect May, it'll break records.
Yep.
I have seen it. I have experienced that.
Well, was it 2 years ago Iowa had, the drought of June, or May and June? I mean, that corn was V10-ish, and it was been curled up for the 20 days. And then the 4th of July hit, and they just got rain. And rain and rain. Guess what? That corn still averaged above 210, I believe.
Yeah.
We can still today's yield limiting factors in agriculture. Okay, it's not nitrogen. Okay, we know that. But also, I don't think it's management from V2 to V7. I think we do a dang good job.
Yeah.
Because we can get into the field.
Right.
Now it's the idea of, can we be even more efficient with our dollars by maybe taking some of that management that we do so well in V2, V7 and just implementing something R2 to R5. Something. And I don't care if you're low on potassium, doing potassium at R4. Maybe it's calcium at tassel. There's all these little things, and there's a lot of these concepts that the science is right, but does it work on your acre? And take some of that management and do it later.
And I think that's something us drylanders can learn from the irrigation world, because people have been running and fertigating things through the pivot, up to black layer for years. And we just don't think about it because on the moisture side, we're at Mother Nature's mercy. But like I say, that at R2 or R3, we can still influence yield. So if we see rain in the forecast, maybe we should be out there with high clearance equipment or aerial or something, looking to do something.
Well, and it goes back to what we even talked about yesterday. The hardest part of that whole thing is you got to have it on the farm. And if it doesn't rain, now you have inputs that aren't going to be used this year that you're paying, some people are paying interest on operation note.
Yep.
And now you got to carry it until you can use it.
Right.
And that makes it tough, and I respect it. But, gosh, I think some of that management later, if there was an opportunity to gain some yield, I think it's in those later stages, just because of where hybrids are at today. Period.
Sure. Well, I told the owner of the seed company that I work with a couple weeks ago, I talked to him. I said, man, I wish this is what I really wish seed companies would do. Give me, and we talked about this last night, give me 2 plots. I want to see your top 4 hybrids over the last half dozen years. And I want to see almost no management, like say 100 pounds of N, plant it, keep the weeds out of it. That is it. I want to see that environment. And I want to see same 4 hybrids, 30 feet over, planted in a true test. I don't want to see management, like manage that thing.
Yep.
I mean, you got a drone on that thing. You're watching tissue tests. I'm talking like honed in, where you almost have a full-time guy out there.
Well, but that's why it's not.
Right.
That's why it's not out there.
Right.
Because it would be a full-time position, and they could do that in Elmdale. Okay. You go 45 minutes away, and that data would be flopped the other way.
It would.
Because of conditions.
Right.
But that's the reason why.
Right. And the thing is, I would love to see, and that's absolutely true. I would love to see how much, is that scalable? No, not at all. But if you wanted to do it, if a guy wanted to do it to a field, and maybe not say take that, you have 0 management and you have 100% management. Okay, maybe 60%.
Yeah.
Where's that range? How much is okay? I would like to shoot for this and see how impactful is this crop, these hybrids in a response environment. What were they capable of with almost nothing, very little attention, and then with extreme intention, and on hybrid sets, not just corn in general, but narrow this down to your top 4 hybrids and show me, hey, management guys, these 2 right here, these are your babies. You want to manage them? This is what we can swing the needle on. Not crop wide, like these 2. This one showed response. Yeah. This one didn't as much.
I think that data's out there.
Yeah.
At least from the seed companies I'm working with, we're getting response to nitrogen, response to population, response to fungicide. And those are the big general ones that they publish. But if you talk to the seed techs and the breeders, they have that information, hybrid by hybrid.
Yeah.
Well,
on a more detailed level.
They know it before they create the hybrid.
Yeah.
Of what responses should
Should be.
happen.
Should trigger.
That's why they made it.
Right.
You know? So it's like, it goes back to the families, 7 or 8 families that are majority. It just matters which one's the male, which one's the female, and what they're getting out of it, what's expressing in those environments. So I'm with you, Eric. I think the data's out there. I just think there's so much that can not skew it. It's just so much data that you would have to get to give that information to, hey, your farm, there's this. But you go to a seed guides region that's an hour away, now you're talking how much dollars investment, which I'm not saying we don't want it. I'm just saying business-wise, that's why it's not here.
It gives some of these smaller seed companies a leg up, though.
Yeah.
Like if, that seed company, they're primarily in eastern Kansas, and, I mean, the guys in northern Kansas are planting the same hybrids for the most part we are in, central. So it's like, now, could Pioneer DeKalb do this where you've got a number that's literally in multi-states and it be as accurate? No. But maybe, a smaller seed company that has some really killer hybrids. I don't know. That was just a value add I thought of. Now, scalability, does it make sense? And then I got to the point, I'm like, maybe I should do that.
Yeah.
What kind of information? I did a hybrid plot on my own, half-mile strips. That was a lot of freaking work.
Yep.
But it was I split the planter, 16-row planter, go down, swap hybrids, clean it out, come back, half miles over 2 different soil types. That was a fun test. And anyway, why did I do that? I just wanted to see for myself.
Yep.
No seed company paid me to do that or anything. Did I do it the next year? No. No, man, it was so much work. But it was really interesting to do. Kind of like the nitrogen test. Very interesting to do.
We've done some tests like that and put the time in. Like you say, it takes a tremendous amount of time to get accurate results and good numbers at the end of it. But I found I learned more from errors.
Every time.
Every time. The planter starter kit didn't kick on until 50 feet down the field. Well, throw a flag in that spot and come back. It's just finding those little application hiccups, whether you did it or the co-op did it for you or whatever, areas that look off, get out in the field and explore those, because you don't need half-mile long strips. You can do, thousands of an acre.
Hopefully your oopsies aren't half-mile longs.
Right.
Great test.
Great test, though. Great test. So, like what you said, the answer plot, you're like, man, that thing's got Goss's wilt in it, this and that. Sweet.
Yeah.
Man, the more problems you can throw at a plot, game on.
Well, because there was one number that I was like, oh, it definitely defended it.
Right.
Oh, to the line.
Yeah. So you're in your head, you're like, okay, if I have a field that has Goss's wilt history, I know which one I'm buying. I mean.
Yeah. Very obvious.
Yep.
And in perfect years and perfect conditions, you don't get to see that. A beautiful show plot, there's little to be learned in.
Yes. Great way to put that.
Ones where they have the nitrogen checks and all that type of stuff, those have a lot of value.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about some tiling.
Okay. You don't have to twist my arm and talk about tiling.
I know.
I'm just fascinated by it.
I'm just setting you up.
I know you are. It's good. So, Eric, give us a little backstory on your history with tiling.
Okay. So we got started tiling probably, I think Dad bought his first tile plow in like 2007. It was a tractor mounted tile plow. We had intentions of just doing our own. Because we'd had 2 fields done commercially already. There weren't many commercial tilers in the area. They were coming out of Minnesota to do our work, and he thought it was something we could do ourselves, and it was. And so he had bought that, and when I was home, I would help in the fall. We'd put in tile, but it came to a point where there's not much tile infrastructure in South Dakota, so it takes either ditch work or large mains to get that water off the fields. And we were finding that tractor plows weren't getting it done. We were hooking 2 and 3 tractors and dozers together. We had pulled a 1-inch cable in half and had just decided we've got to change something or we're going to break something or hurt somebody. And so in 2010, I moved back to the farm and bought a commercial tile plow and started our tiling business there. You think South Dakota, it always droughts out. It's a plain state. It's dry, but what we struggle with is snow melt and cold soil temperatures in the spring. And what we found are the primary benefit from tile, in my opinion, in South Dakota, is earlier planting date. The soils warm up quicker. We can get in them and not do damage with tillage or planting.
How does tile warm soil up?
The water in the soil is harder or takes more GDUs, if you will, energy to raise that temperature versus a proper soil, which would be 25% water, 25% air, 50%
so oversaturated soil warms slower.
Yes. Warms slower.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay. Tile novice.
Novice.
Newbie?
Yeah.
Newbie, whatever.
Newbie?
Either one.
Okay, I'm a tile
Yeah.
newbie.
And so we've been doing that commercially since 2010 and have seen just significant returns. $1,000 to $1,200 acre systems paying back in 2 to 3 years, depending on the crop.
Wow.
It takes the right year, but there's 40 to 50 bushel potentially on corn and 10 to 20 on soybeans, depending on the year. For us, we've probably seen the biggest benefit on soybeans because we plant our soybeans first. And so being able to go out there early and get across those fields, not having to go around areas. April planted soybeans are great, and then we're allows the soil to warm up more for a warm season grass, which is corn.
Yep.
And so that's really been.
I love that. Warm season grass, corn.
Because
that's what it is.
It is, yeah. So and in South Dakota, it's something that it's taken off, and we're just going to continue to see more. Land prices continue to go up, and so people are looking at how do we get more return on the acres we have, rather than adding more acres. And honestly, I think we talk about all the agronomic benefits, but for a lot of people, there's also a lifestyle benefit. We don't have the stress in the spring of planters getting stuck or unclogging row units, that sort of thing, or the headaches in the fall of mudding through a cornfield or bean field trying to take your crop out. You can feel confident that if I take this Friday night off to go watch my son's football game or something, if we get rain over the weekend, I'm still going to be in the field first thing Monday morning. Doing that. So there's a lot of peace of mind in operationally that hey, I can get my operations done in a timely manner, regardless of what Mother Nature throws at us. And I think South Dakota, much like Kansas, is a highly variable weather state.
Very variable.
Yeah. Well, that was one thing that I thought about too. Was, gosh, you go another 2 hours west, then go south, that's Ord. I mean, pretty much.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there's some years that I think why tile hasn't really took off in my area is because on those years, you wouldn't see a return. Now, this year you would have. I would guarantee it just because of the amount of rain. So, like, on those drier years, per se, what are some agronomic benefits possibly in those situations if you would see any?
On a drier year, you said?
On a drier year.
Yeah. It's planting date. I mean, so this year is the first time our tile lines have run in probably 3 years. We've been in a real dry spell.
Okay.
And so there hasn't been an in-season benefit. You don't get the satisfaction of looking at an outlet and seeing the water run off the field and say, man, I really did the right thing here.
Yeah.
But you don't know what the spring's going to bring for that planting date. So the planting date is where that tile it pays for itself.
Well, if you have 2 really wet weeks in May, and you're able to get that water off, you
Yeah.
might be able to get back in that third week of May instead of it being June 1st or June 15th, you know. I could see that possibility. It doesn't matter what the rest of the summer looks like.
Right.
Honestly, it's just what's going on that month.
Yeah, and I do want to stress that, you know, we're not talking about draining cattail sloughs here. You know, South Dakota is the prairie pothole region. We've got a lot of wildlife and that around, and you know, we respect those wetland determinations and such. But there's a lot of fields here that lay flat and are wetland free after a redetermination. And you know, to be able to out and tile those end to end really makes a farm out of them.
Yeah.
And you also don't have to have just flat ground. I mean, there's a lot of farms with slope. They don't need pattern tile because a lot of the water runs off in big rains. It'll run to the low areas. Maybe it's just the low areas we need to address and or side hill seeps.
Yep.
You know, those areas that you always got stuck. You could drive through the bottom and you get stuck 2/3 of the way to the top of the hill.
Yep.
You know, a single tile line above that will take care of those issues. So it really just depends on the lay of the land and what the owner's objections are.
Have you seen much soil type changing the cost per acre at all when it comes to tile?
Soil types not as much.
Okay.
More topography in this part of the world.
Okay.
The one thing, it can move with soil types, but we do have alkali spots in South Dakota. You know, where you drive by, there's nothing but kochia growing, and the soil's white with salts.
Yep.
You know, those areas, depending on how fast the owner wants to clean them up, we can get down to 20-foot spacings, which significantly increases the cost per acre. But those may only be 1, 2, 3 acre spots in a field.
Gotcha.
You know, we're not doing grid tile on a whole field at
I know a guy.
20-foot spacing. But, you know, we do see a lot of 60-foot spacings, and those trouble areas are either split at 20 or 30.
Okay.
So,
And then also with that, we were talking about flushing out mag.
yeah.
Okay. Why should I have tile to make that happen?
Without tile, that mag is going to move lower in the profile on a wet year. You know, sulfur will free it up. But on a later in that wet year, when the plants start to use things, that water is going to evaporate off the top of the soil and bring all that mag back up with it. So if we don't have a tile in the ground or a tube in the ground to take that mag off the field, we're just going to continually move it from low to high in the soil profile.
Yep.
We've got to have a way to have that mag exit the field, or salts, whatever it is, sodium.
A legit flush.
Yeah,
I mean,
a
literally
legit-
a flush.
Your overbalance, or your over whatever is excess in your soil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you know, over what you
Would
just
say
said there,
mag is the number one thing people are trying to flush, mag and salt.
could be, yeah. I mean, yeah, of the nutrients, that's what it is, mag and sodium.
Yeah.
Unintentionally, we see a lot of nitrate go out.
Yep. 100%. It's going to happen.
You know, so guys that are putting fall anhydrous on or something like that, or over applying and leaving high amounts of nitrate in the field, you know, we can also see all those dollars go out the stream if they're not managed properly. So keeping an eye on your nitrogen applications is a big deal. And
Well,
one,
just
because it's
testing the water that's coming out every once in a while. You don't have to do it every week.
Right.
You know, but just what is?
Couple tests. Yeah.
yeah, the nitrates are there. But what you're not seeing with a tile system is you're not seeing the phosphorus, potassium, and a lot of the chemicals. You know, that stuff is in the soil, being tied up by organic matter, going through a cycle there. You know, the way that moves off a field is if your soil's saturated and you get a 2-inch rain and water's leaving the field across the surface ditch or whatever, that's where you see chemical and P&K move off your acres.
Yep.
So tile does limit that significantly, with the downfall being nitrate.
I mean, if you really want to go down the rabbit hole, okay, if you're having a plus 40 bushel gain, if it's making 40 more bushels, how much more root exudation is happening inside of that soil. The more root exudation, the more carbon. The more carbon you have, the less chance for flushing.
Right.
You know, so I mean, that's a little bit longer path, but still, it tells you you're getting more carbon into that system, which is going to help reduce the amount of quote unquote flushing of those other nutrients there.
Right. Well, and if you look at the nitrogen cycle, we lose a high part of that to denitrification
Yes.
going up to the atmosphere.
Yep.
And so if we're not saturated, we cut that denitrification in half.
Yep. Yes. 100%.
You'd rather it go down in your profile than off up into the sky.
My dollars for sure.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
do what you want, Josh.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Okay. We're out of time already on
I ain't
part
surprised.
1. Yeah, no, I'm not surprised at all. I figured that would be easy. So we're going to cut part 2. You want to talk more business.
We can talk about soybeans first. It's okay.
I would say, and 100 bushel beans. Or 110. Or maybe a little better. Let's see.
Good beans.
Good beans. Like freaking killer.
Yep.
So anyway, that'll be part 2. Eric, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And see you on the next one.
We'll be there.
Over and out. Guys, thanks for watching the content so far. If you would like to see more, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got all the full-length podcasts, other video information, tutorials on there. Also on all the major podcast platforms and social media sites, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, etc. So if you like this, go ahead and check more out on all those platforms.